I'm Kimberly Lavelle at yourparenthelp.com, and this week we are talking about phonological awareness, or phonemic awareness. There's a subtle difference. I'm not going to take the time to explain that. What you need to know is that they're both about sound and manipulating sounds, and it's all about a pre-reading skill. It's what helps your child to be good at reading before they're a reader, or it helps them to be more successful. If your child is older and struggling with reading, they may be struggling because of phonological awareness, phonemic awareness. Dyslexia is all about struggles with phonological awareness. That they struggle with being able to manipulate sounds and words, which then impacts their ability to read. So, what do we do about it? So, the younger your child is, the more you want to be doing a lot of sound manipulation. And it starts with even just reading books like Dear Dr. Seuss. This one's a board book version, a shortened version. But he gets really rather silly. I guess this one's actually not the best example because it's all about foot and feet. They all end with the same word. It's not very much rhyming. Well, this one's kind of fun. His feet, her feet, fuzzy fur feet. So now the her and the fur are rhyming. So that one's... But even if they're just hearing a lot of rhyming, or a lot of other Dr. Seuss books, there's a lot of rhyming. He makes up words that rhyme together, right? So he makes alliterations. We're reading the Lorax, and it talks about miff, mufford, moof, or something like that. So it's an alliteration. It's all made up, but it's playing with sounds. It's all those words, fake words, started with the same letter, same consonant sound, so it's alliteration. And then a lot of it has rhyming. So there's a lot of phonemic awareness just in those books. The more you read them, the more your child's exposed to them, the more it can help. One of our other favorites that is very similar in that it has rhymes in it this is Rosie Revere Engineer. We love these books. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. So again, it's just has rhymes. The more that you're exposing your child to those things, the better. Other things that you can do is playing games like that silly, I don't even remember if I have this right, but it's something like me, my, mo, mim, fee, fi, fo, kim. I don't know. You know what I mean? I'll think of it later, but it's that, like, you're taking someone's name and then playing with it. And you're doing some rhyming, some alliteration. Like, you're changing the first letter, you're changing the last letters. You're playing around with that word. So you can also do this with, you say a word, and your child says a word that rhymes. Or the other way around, you say, okay, let's play the rhyming game. Tell me a word. And they tell you a word. And then you come up with something that rhymes. And it's okay if you tell your child specifically, say, and it can be nonsense words. If you want to just work on the rhyming, it doesn't matter if it's real words or not because the concept is still the same. Now, if they are always doing the same thing, like I have some students who've had dyslexia who have said things like they'll use the same consonant every time because they've had success with it, and they're not really strong at rhyming, but they know that if, for example, they might say every time. So if I say fat, they might say rat. I might say dock. They might say rock. So it works, right? But if every time they're saying the same one, then you want to start with it first of all. And you also want to try to say, okay, this time no nonsense words, because sometimes they'll be saying something and it starts with that sound, but it's not a real word. And if you ask them to come up with another one, they can't. They're stuck. They have one strategy. I use this sound and that ending, which is good. They have the beginning. So I wouldn't take that away initially, but if it's always the same and they're not progressing on their own, then I would start with just adopting theirs first, which then forces them to try something else. And you can help suggest something. And if they're older and they know the alphabet and those sounds pretty well, older isn't like older than a pre-reader who might be working on rhyming. If they know their letters and sounds, then you might just have the alphabet in front of them somewhere, and even just like subtly just have it there that they can like kind of reference it to think about other options that they have, that they aren't just stuck with like what other sounds are there that I can use. I lost my train of thought, sorry. So there's rhyming, there's replacing the first letter, also, or rhyming is replacing the first letter, or there's keeping the first beginning, changing the ending. There's also deletion, like adding, taking something away. As simple would start with, say cat without k, and then they have to say at, right? That's kind of the beginning. And then you would say, okay, say cat, but change the k to a s. So now you're telling them how to rhyme. So they have to think cat. They have to know to take away the k. They have to know to put in a s at the beginning, and then say sat. There's a lot there. Or it can be a middle sound that changes. If you say cat, change the a to an I. Kit. Say cat, change the t to a p. Cap. These are all challenging, right? These are all things that they're going to have to really think through, work on. If your child is struggling to read and you know that they're struggling with phonological awareness, these are the strategies you want to be using. There are a lot of programs out there that work on this. There's Orton Gillingham, various ones. Like there's the kind of beginning, and then there's some other ones that use the same strategies, so they're all very similar. There's other ones that will just say that they work on phonological awareness, and they're usually very similar, do kind of the same thing. Those ones tend to be cheaper. If you have a question and want me to look at it, you can find me at yourparenthelp.com, send me an email. As soon as I can, I'll look at it and give you some feedback. I don't want to give any specific that this is the best one, because there's multiple that are really great. There's a kind of like an off-brand one that I've seen and used, and it works really well. Like it's very structured, organized, works super well. It's typically the kind of thing that you'd almost want to hand to like a tutor to do, because it's so scripted that it can make the relationship with your child feel a little strained if your child's not comfortable with you being in that position with them. So it's something you could hand to a tutor, because it's all like just scripted. Like a high school student or anybody, like they don't have to have any training other than being able to read and pause and encourage. They just hand them the book. And there's several that are like that. Again, there's some that you have very specific training for that is almost, to me, overkill, because they're pretty simple, straightforward. You just follow the script. Okay, so the super most advanced, or one of the most advanced, if not the most advanced, forms of phonological awareness that you can strive toward is Pig Latin. I an ke ixpe igpe atle. Nk uye. So Pig Latin, if you don't know, is all about taking the first consonant sound off, moving it to the end of the word, and adding a. So I doesn't have a consonant, so it's I-A. Can becomes an-k-a, an-k. And you can work through this with your child. You can say, if I was doing can with my child, I would say can. Take off the k, an. Now say and can with the k at the end, And sometimes it helps to at the same time say and add a, because sometimes it's hard for them to say ank, but sometimes they need that before they can add the a. So you can kind of play with that. And k is then what you're getting toward. So that one's like the when you've gotten past the easier stuff, which is really hard for a lot of kids. So I'm not saying it's easy. It can be very time consuming and tedious, but it does help them a lot later, because if you don't know how to manipulate sounds, the only way that you can read is through sight reading, which is a valid way to read. It's just a lot harder to ever figure out complicated words. So I would definitely encourage you to work on phonological awareness, even if you're also working on sight reading at the same time. I hope that helps. I hope you have fun with it. Even if your child is not struggling with phonological awareness, you can always try them on Pig Latin or some rhyming games. It just helps build all of that even more. So that's always fun. Have a fabulous week, and I will see you next week.